Okay, so I've had a few requests recently to do a video on how to set up a perf cut on a graphtec cutter. So these steps will show you how to set up a condition for perf cutting on an FC8000 or FC8600 or FC9000. The buttons and the settings are going to be virtually the same. So we're looking now at the front panel of the graphtec. And by the way, this video is going to show how to set the settings on a condition on the machine. I do have like separate videos that show how to set up the cut lines and set up the job in the software as well. So those are going to be typically linked with this video when I send it out. So if so first of all, we're going to go into our conditions menu so you can load media, the desired media in this case is something that you can test out. So load the material, and then we're going to go into condition, and we're going to set a condition for perf cut. Normally, just generally speaking, I'm going to use condition 8 just because like most people aren't using condition 8 for anything else. So I'll pick that, but it can really be any condition you choose. I can hit 1 to change the condition. Right now the plotter's set on condition number 1, but if I hit 1 over here on the front panel, I can now arrow up or down through my conditions to select a different one. So in this case, I'm just going to use condition 8. It's kind of preset by default as a pounce tool, and most people aren't using a pounce tool. If you do use a pounce tool, maybe you can use condition 7 or whatever else. It's really your choice. So I'll hit enter to select condition 8. So now I'm on condition number 8. And I'm going to press 2 to change my tool type. And I can arrow through all the list of the different blade types out there. CB09U is going to be like the standard blue tipped blade holder with a 45-degree angle. You've got a K60, which is the same size blade, but it's a 60-degree blade, and so on. Typically, I would recommend, if you're doing a lot of perf cutting, I would use the CB15U. That's a 1.5 millimeter blade, and that's going to be the red tipped blade holders. It's just a little bit more heavy duty. Perf cutting is kind of hard on blades. Cutting into that paper backing just does a lot of wear and tear on the blade. So if you're doing a lot of it, I would recommend using the red tipped blade holder with the 1.5 millimeter blade. If you just do it here and there, the CB09U will work, or the CB09U K60. It's got a little bit more blade on it, a little bit more angle, so for thicker materials might be better. So it kind of just depends. Any of these should work. The 15U is going to be a better option. If it's really thick, you might want the K30, which is their 60-degree option for the 1.5 millimeter blades. So whatever, as long as it matches what the blade you're actually using, choose that, hit enter. The speed, we're going to want to slow it down, so I'm going to hit 3 for speed. And normally I'm going to run my speed at like 10 or 15 inches per second. So it shows all the conditions. If I left or right, I'm toggling the condition number. I want to be highlighted in this case on condition number 8. And then I'm going to arrow down to slow down the speed. So let's set it to like 10. On perf cut, you want to run it fairly slow. And then enter to save that. And then the force, you're going to want to test this. It depends on the thickness of the material and the type of blade you're using. But I would say on average, you're looking at, you need enough to punch through the material. So you're going to be like 25 to 35 in that range. So I'd set it usually on the low end. So we're highlighted on number 8. And I'm going to up arrow, set it on the low end. Let's say we're doing like a laminated material. Let's set it to 25. And then you're going to test that. And then maybe you'll bump it up a little more and so on. Just typical testing. You're going to run the cut test. And you do that. I'm going to go ahead and save this at 25 by hitting enter, by hitting the cut test, which is the left arrow to do 1 cut test, or the right arrow to do 3 cut tests. So I would hit left arrow. In this case, the plotter is not loaded, but I would hit the left arrow, and then it would perform the standard square with a triangle in it. And when you're perforating, you want to be able to punch that sticker out. It's going to cut that little square, and that's what you're looking for. You don't want to chew it up too bad. So it looks almost like a normal vinyl cut, but then when you try to pop it out, it should pop out. And that's basically what I'm looking for there. If it's chewing it up real bad, then I've either got too much force or too much blade depth on my blade. So then I would kind of back that off and then run it again until what I'm looking for is a pretty clean square. I'm not too worried about whether the triangle pops out or anything, but I should be able to pop the square out without having to fight with it too much. And that's kind of my general rule. And then once I've got that dialed in, really the real test is to run some jobs and see how well they pop out. And then you can kind of make further tweaks to the settings if you need to from there. So I've got on my first line, my page 1 of 3 selected, my tool type, my condition number, speed, force. There's a few other special things we need to do to set the perforate pattern and so forth. So I'm going to arrow down to the next page of instructions. Actually, let's go to page 2 of 3 here. The acceleration, not critical, but I usually am going to lower my acceleration on pretty much anything. That's your takeoff speed. If you have it set to take off too fast, sometimes it yanks. So I'm going to usually lower my takeoff speed to like around 2 or 3 on pretty much everything. And then the next one we need to do is assign the tool position. So number 2 here on the front panel, they're all set to tool position 1. That's the rear position on the plotter. So on most of the graphtec cutters, they've got a front and a back position where the knife can sit. Basically, the back position is over the top of the cutter protection strip for standard vinyl cutting. And then that front position is if you're cutting all the way through. So in this case, we want condition number 8 to be on tool position 3. So I'm going to hit 3 on the front panel to change it. So all my other standard vinyl cutting is going to be in the rear position, position 1. But anything that's perf cut is going to go over that cutter channel in the front position, tool position 3. There are other videos that show this. I don't have a graphtec cutter in front of me to make a video, but this will be the settings for that. But if you look on your plotter, you'll see where you can adjust that clamp and move the blade forward or backwards. You always want to make sure if it's in the front position, it's marked as tool position 3. If it's in the back position, which is the standard, it's marked as tool position 1. So we'll hit enter to save that. And basically the last thing I'm going to do is I want to change my cut line pattern. So we've got our tool position set. I'm going to arrow down to page 3. There's cut line pattern. This is going to set your perforate pattern so it doesn't just do a die cut. It's going to actually perforate so you can punch them out. And quick note on like quote unquote die cutting where you're cutting like you're all the way through the material, not leaving tabs. It's a bad idea. You're going to have things start falling out and cause problems. So you really need to perforate when you're cutting on a roll cutter. So that's why we leave the tabs. So in this case, this is going to set that pattern for us so we don't have to design that into the design or anything like that. We just do a normal cut line, and then this is going to set that perforated pattern. So I'm going to hit 2 for type. So right now it's turned off, so there's no pattern. But if I hit 2 here, and then I've got user defined patterns where I could make up my own pattern. And then they have 7 like preloaded patterns. I really like this type number 2. It tends to do a good job. It leaves a good sized tab where it pops out easily but doesn't fall out too easily and so forth. So in this case, I've got it selected on 2. I'm going to hit escape to back up. On the 8000 and 8600, I think, oh no, I think it's still actually escape. So I'll hit escape there, and then you can see what it's doing here. It's going to do a 8mm slit all the way through, and then a 0.25mm tab. And that works pretty good, but you can modify that to your liking if you wanted to, but I've always had good luck with this. So then I'll hit enter to save, enter to set, and my condition is now set up. Check out some of our other videos to see how to set up files for printing and cutting, or how to set up the job in, say, Onyx or some other RIP. I think I have videos on most of those programs. So check them out, but that's how to set it up on the front panel of the cutter. Thanks.